Hey, and welcome back to another episode of the Landing Spot podcast. Today, we have such an incredible human being on the show, and I'm so excited. I really think that this is going to be one of the most powerful episodes that we will ever record because we are going to get very real. Something that I have experienced quite a bit in my profession is the gravity and the heaviness of the experience of walking through infertility. And it's something that a lot of women are facing right now. However, it
Mhm,
feels like when you are in that situation, you are the only one.
mhm.
And our guest today, Anna, she has walked through this journey, and I have had the honor and the pleasure of getting to know her as she's gone through this journey and watch her really come into who she is through the hardships and just some of the things that she's overcome as she's walked through infertility. And so I think it's such an important discussion to have because being able to somewhat relate in uh, that longing for motherhood, it's something that we don't have a lot of people to talk to. However, there are a lot of women out there going through this. And so I really think that this conversation is going to be felt and understood and needed by a lot of women. So, Anna, welcome and thank you so, so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me. I'm very honored that you asked me to do this. So,
Well, I just knew, you and I have had some in-depth conversations, and you've always been really open and honest about your experiences. And then expressed a while ago that you felt a desire and a calling to share your story because it has been such a journey for you. So, one thing that I want to start doing with my shows is start out giving the listeners um, something that they can walk away with. So, if you had to just right off the bat give one um, helpful hint or strategy for somebody who is really in the thick of infertility, just one thing that can at least for that day help them step back out into the light, what would that be?
well, I feel like this is a little cliche, but you can come out of where you are because I have been in some of the darkest times, and um, mentally and physically, I've been down there. And when I'm sitting here with a smile on my face, I'm like this most of the day, all day now. You can come out of it, and it's not. I don't have a baby. I don't have a child, and you can still be okay. You can be okay. It's gonna be okay.
Yeah. That's so good. So just knowing that regardless of the outcome,
Of the
because
outcome. Hmm.
we talk about this a lot in health and wellness, that we don't have control over the outcome, but we do have control over the action steps that we'll take every day, right? And
Exactly.
inevitably, we get better as we take those action steps, even if the outcome doesn't look like what we thought it would. So I think that's great. That morning is coming. It will not be night forever. Morning is coming, and to grasp onto that and remember the hard things you've been through in the past and that you've gotten through that and cling on to that. So I think that's a great tip. So the what I wanted to do is just ask you to share your journey,
Okay.
what you've been through with infertility, and don't hold back because it's been a hard journey.
Yeah.
And I think this is going to help.
Okay. So we have been trying, my husband and I, Bradley, have been trying for 8 years. It doesn't feel like that. It's been that long. Sometimes it feels like 15. Um, and they say, I think a year, 6 months to a year. It's been so long now, I don't remember. After trying, if nothing's happening, to talk to your doctor. So I did, just my normal OBGYN. And I just mentioned some things to her, and So you start out with oral medicines. Well, that didn't work. So we went to a specialist. And, you know, part of my journey is they say they don't really know, or they tell me I have PCOS and endometriosis, but so do a lot of women who have children. So there's never been like just a definite, there's this wrong with you and this wrong with you. So, and sometimes that makes it hard because you want answers. Like it'd almost be better to say you absolutely cannot have children instead of we don't know why you can't get pregnant. That's a hard thing, because then you just wonder all these things in your mind.
Yeah. So I really do want to stop and talk about that for a minute, because I think that that is one of the things that is hardest. It's
Mm.
that place where, okay, Lord, do I start mourning motherhood?
Right.
Can I know? Can I at least know if this is not possible? Then I want to start walking through that process so that I can
Right.
get through it and get to the other side.
Right.
And some of my story, and I'll be 40 this year, and
Mhm.
what have walked through just wanting to be a mom. And
Mhm.
so it's a thing that I can relate to
Mhm.
my clients who have struggled with infertility, the not knowing. And I think everybody will
Mhm.
agree, anytime
Mhm.
you've been through something hard, the not knowing is probably the worst part.
Right. Well,
So
especially when you go to these appointments and they do all these scans and blood work and everything looks great. Like, this is going to be it. They said in the beginning, they said that every time, this is going to be the month. Everything looks great. And you're just like, okay. And then
mm,
it was just like month after month after month. So we saw our first specialist about a year after trying. And that was one of the tougher times, because that particular clinic that we went to, I would go every month. They would they changed my medicine. It was all oral. Changed my medicine. We would go every month, and every month they would make me take a pregnancy test at home, not
mm.
there. And every month it was negative. And like, when I say you start seeing things, like you start making yourself want to believe that there's a positive on that pregnancy test. It was tough, and I kind of think that was the beginning of my downward spiral,
Mm.
of just mentally not being myself. We eventually left that clinic just because of some things, and we went to a new clinic, and we're still with these people and we love them. Positive Steps in Madison, Dr. Perry. I mean, they just kind of took the bull by the horns and said, look, I don't remember how old I was at the time, probably 30 at that time, maybe a little after. But anyway, they said, it's time to get aggressive, because the older you get, the harder it becomes. We have done 3 failed IUIs, which is just like artificial insemination. That failed 3 times. And then we decided in January of 2021, we decided to do IVF. So IVF is where they go and they take your eggs, they put you to sleep, take your eggs, and then they take the sperm and they fertilize the eggs, and then you have um, so many take. So we had 6 embryo babies. Um, one of them was what they call a mosaic, which is just meaning that you probably shouldn't or won't, we probably won't transfer that one because there's just not enough evidence that it's healthy. So we had 3 boys and 2 girls. And we have transferred 2 of them, and those have both failed. We don't know what our plans are next. We're just waiting a little while, but we do still have 3 little M babies left, and we're just kind of in a halting point, I guess. You could say I took a little mental break from it all. So, yeah.
So you've talked about the darkness, And I know in the past you've told me that there were days where you couldn't even get out of bed. So I really want to dig in there because
Yeah.
so many women are in that boat. I see a lot of posts. I am in some PCOS and infertility groups. And one thing that you said that I saw a lot of was that seeing things when you're taking pregnancy tests and seeing a positive when it is not a positive, and I saw that so often with some women. So I mean, if you don't mind, let's just kind of dig into that and talk
Yeah.
about how dark things got, what was causing it, and your emotions around all of that.
Yeah. So what I think honestly kind of started that was when I was asked to take those pregnancy tests monthly. And, at first I was like, they're not positive. Okay. We're just going to increase my medicine and next month will be the month. And then it wouldn't happen. And I still had a very positive, outlook on it all. Eventually, I would go be on the test and then I would take pictures with my phone, send them to my friends, like, do y'all see it? And bless their hearts. I mean, sometimes they might have said, yeah, I kind of do see it, but there was nothing to see. Um, and and that was all happening about the time most of my age or, people I went to school with, it was just flooding Facebook with pregnancy announcements or, even my sister-in-laws or just people close to me were all getting pregnant. And all of that together just kind of, took a toll on me mentally. I thought, why can I not get pregnant? They keep telling me everything's okay. And the more I was taking those tests, I quit just being myself altogether. My work ethic was bad. I didn't want to go to work. I didn't want to get up. I didn't want to do anything. In church, I didn't want to go to church. I literally did not want to do anything. I didn't want to leave my home. I stayed in the bed a lot. I would call into work. I would stay home, and it was not one day. It wasn't a Saturday. I'd stay in the bed from sun up to sundown. It was multiple days in a row, and I would eat whatever I wanted to eat. And my poor husband would just do what I asked him to as far as feeding me. And it just got out of control very, very quickly because it is this cycle of guilt. I can remember my sister-in-law or my husband telling me that my sister-in-law was pregnant, and I laid in the bed and cried. And then you cry because you're crying over the fact that you're about to get a niece or a nephew, which is so exciting. And I love my nieces and nephews, more than anything. But you're crying because you feel guilty because you're crying because, somebody's pregnant. And it was like this vicious cycle of that because you want to be happy for people and you are happy for people, but then you feel like you're being selfish or not being happy for someone, even though you really are. But it's hard to celebrate it because you're broken and you're hurting because you want what they have. And that still, to this day, eats me up because like I was telling you earlier, before when we were chatting, my sister in law, Brittany, I love her very much. She is about to have her third. And last weekend, I went to her first baby shower. I did not go to either one of her other ones just because of the way I was feeling at those times. That was in the deepest, darkest times, and I didn't even go to my own sister-in-law's baby
So this
showers
this was the first of three that you had
of
been to.
three that
Yeah.
I went to.
Yeah.
Um, and that makes you feel guilty too. I mean, even
Yeah.
saying it now, I'm like, gosh, like you were horrible
It
for
so
not doing that, but
this is something that I wanted to talk about because this
hmm hmm
mental
yep.
battle, that's probably the most politically correct way I
Yes.
can say that, right?
hmm
Because when I think about my own struggles there, it makes me, I get angry and I feel
hmm
that feeling that you're feeling. It's this anguish because you are excited. You
hmm
love that this is happening for them. The last thing that you want for anyone
Right.
else is to experience the degree of pain that you're walking through.
hmm
But you also feel pain because
hmm
I think that every time that you or a woman looks at a negative pregnancy test, it's rejection. And something that a recurring theme with women that I've talked to that are going through this is you feel rejected almost by God. Why is my body not good
hmm
enough? Why am I not good enough?
Yes.
And it's so hard because
hmm
then, like you said, it starts to filter out into everything that you do to the point where you're just miserable everywhere you go. Everything is a reminder
Yes.
of what you don't have
hmm
and what you're fighting so hard for, right? And so
Yes.
it buries you. It buries women who are going through this,
hmm
and the harder that they try to resist that and put on a happy face, the worse it gets in most cases.
Yeah.
And Anna is one of the most positive, lovely, loving people that I know. God just made her full of love, and that's what she radiates. And so, and I think that you recognize that. And then when all of the sudden you felt that leaving because of
hmm
your struggles, I mean, talk to me about that. How did you process this, or did you just not for a while?
I didn't. I just didn't. I mean, I sometimes I think back because it still is there.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I was just numb. I didn't I didn't care. I didn't care what people thought. I didn't care, honestly, that my husband was sitting back watching me change into this person that he didn't know, that my parents were sitting back. I'm very close to my family.
So after so long of this constant pain, you just kind of shut it off altogether.
hmm Yeah.
So tell me some of the physical changes. So one thing that I think it's really important for women to understand, whether you are walking through this journey and you're going through, to fertility specialists, or you have loved ones that are, the amount of hormones that are pumped into your body, it is absolutely insane. And this will also change you.
Yeah.
Hormones, they're just chemical messengers, right?
Right.
And so these chemical messengers are all of a sudden very unnatural, and they're coming in very high doses. So
hmm
you go from feeling completely out of control to, I mean, that's a huge factor in why it's such an emotional roller coaster, on top of it being such a painful journey. So it's like multifaceted, just this whoosh of like intenseness. Um, so then you've got it affecting your moods, obviously, but it's going to affect, your insulin sensitivity or resistance. It's going to make it easier. Your brain is like, what's going on? Your cortisol levels are elevated because of all this stuff that's going on in your body, which means you're going to have this insulin response, which just means it's going to make it easier to gain weight, right? And
Right.
then you have these emotional factors driving. What we need is some kind of fix, some kind of dopamine hit to at least numb the pain, as you were talking about. So there's so many different things. So tell me what all changed in your behavior and your physical appearance, all of that. Walk me through that.
Yeah. So every woman handles the medications that they give you differently. I struggled more with the orals, and they just, like you said, up and down all the time. One minute I was happy and fine, the next minute I'm pouring sweat and angry and everything Bradley did. Made me mad. Bless his heart. Honestly, to me, that was just a small thing. And the weight gain was not just from the hormones; it was from me being depressed about it all and eating a lot and not moving my body. But that got to where I didn't want to go anywhere because of how I looked. Here I was, like 60, 70 pounds heavier than what I've been, my whole life. And that in itself, I started not wanting to go to church because I might have felt a little better on that Sunday, but I couldn't wear anything, or, I just felt disgusting because I'd probably been in bed for 4 days, and for a week I'd feel better. And once again, back to the hormones, I'd feel great for a week, and I'd get out and maybe walk around the neighborhood, or, something like that. But it ultimately, it took over. It
Mm,
all took
yeah.
over. So,
Yeah. You've got, I mean, just the gravity of all the intense feelings about the situation,
mhm.
the helplessness, and
Yes,
at some point hopelessness that takes over.
right.
And then, we see a lot of times when things feel out of control, when we look at COVID, what COVID did to
Yes.
people's weight skyrocketed because they were so stressed out.
Mhm.
Everything felt so out of our control. We didn't know what was coming next, the apocalypse. It was just a
Right,
weird
right. We didn't
time.
know. Yeah.
And so, you're living in this land of uncertainty and then you've got people looking at you, you've got a spouse, you've got family, and, everybody wants the best for you, but nobody really knows how to be there for you. They just don't. I mean, and it's not that they are wrong or bad or
Right.
ill equipped, because they don't want to be. It's because
They don't know how.
you just can't, it's just a feeling that unless you've gone through it, you can't feel. And so, um, that is a lot. And when we see people at their worst with depression, it is when they've lost all hope.
Mhm.
And at some point, this culmination of hard things, did you ever just feel completely hopeless?
Oh, yeah. Many, many days, many days. And I ended up losing my job because of that, and went a few months without a job. And I pretty much would sleep all day and then be up all night. And then it was just a cycle. So,
Yeah. And I wanted you to tell your story because this is such a hard thing to go through.
mhm.
And you have still, I mean, the way that you have come out on the other side is incredible. And so while we are talking about these hard things, and we may dive a little bit deeper into those things,
Yeah.
but I want to remind the listeners that there is a bright side coming. And so,
Yeah.
that wherever you are right now in your journey, if you are having just lost your job because you couldn't get out of bed because things are so hard, just know that, like you said at the very
Yeah.
beginning, morning is coming. The
Mhm.
sun will shine again, and that you
Yes.
will get through this no matter what the result. So hang in there and reach out. So while we're at this place where you are probably at your lowest, um, and you have friends, family, loved ones, just people in your surroundings that want to support you or that are just around. What were some of the things that you found really difficult when that people would say? So if we were speaking to someone who is a loved one of somebody who's walking through infertility, and we know that your heart's desire is to help them however you can. But sometimes some of the things that people say in those situations can make it worse. So, what would be some of the things that really triggered you, even though you know that people weren't meaning to?
Yes. So, I got this a lot. Anytime I'd see somebody that I went to school with or something, it was instantly like, well, why don't you have kids yet? That was that. that one would get me. Just the not the do you have kids, but why don't you have them yet? Um, that would just bring up all kinds of angry things. Or a big one for me, and this lasted a long time. Now it really doesn't bother me, but this lasted a while, is when people with their own children would say things like, well, be glad you don't have to get up at 3 a.m. with them, or be
Mm,
glad you don't have to do this. Um, just because I would give anything to get up at 3 a.m. and rock my baby back to sleep. So, that, ooh, that would get me.
yeah.
That would make me angry. The
Yeah.
why don't you have kids yet wasn't a big thing, but those things would make me so angry. Just because they didn't know how bad I did want that, or how bad I would like to, have to leave work in the middle of something very important because my baby needed me, or
Yeah.
just the inconveniences of everyday life.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Because
you
then
know,
it almost makes you want to pose the question, well, how would you feel if that inconvenience didn't exist?
right.
You know?
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
again, I do think that people are trying to maybe not look as glamorous, because I think
They
we can all
exactly.
agree that parenting is the hardest job
Oh
that
yeah.
there is. And we don't undervalue that or underestimate that
No, because
by
I
any
have no
means.
clue. I have
Right.
no clue,
But at the same time, like the longing to understand, to join that
Right.
club of being
Yes.
inconvenienced by
Yeah.
3 a.m. wake up.
Yeah.
And people say that again, not knowing that all that you have been through.
Right.
So it is, and I wanted to bring this to people's attention, because again, I know that their heart's desire is to truly help their friend or their loved one. And so
Right.
if you can hear this as honest feedback, and maybe your conversations will look a little different, maybe they
Yeah.
won't, but just to
But
hear from someone who's gone through it.
yes, but it also, and here's one of those tricky things that gets you when you go through stuff like this, because, you hate it when people say stuff like that. But then you also hate when people walk on eggshells around you, or
Yes,
won't tell you that they're pregnant because they're scared, or,
it
because
is.
you want to know.
Mhm. Yes,
That's one of those things. So also, if you're listening to this on the other side, don't shut them out either. Don't just think everything is, even though it might hurt. I recently had a friend come to me, and she said, "I just wanted to tell you that I'm pregnant. I wanted you to know before I told everybody, just because I knew, I didn't know how you would take it." And that meant a lot to me. And she told me, she said, "I was terrified to tell you." Um, and it was okay. It was okay.
yeah.
But that meant a lot, that before she told as far as Facebook and that kind of thing, she wanted me to know, she wanted to let me know from her mouth, and not, see a pregnancy announcement, or, which
Because
I
you know what that does? That honors you where you're at,
right.
and it
Yep.
validates your pain.
Yep.
Your friend loves you so much
Yep.
and understands to the best that she can the pain that you've been
Yep.
through. And I think that is beautiful. and
Mhm.
and here's where things get tricky, because we get so caught up in wanting to snap the conversation into a different direction because it's uncomfortable.
Right.
But your friend humbled herself
Mhm.
and took on that uncomfortable to the umpteenth degree and said, listen, let's just sit here and talk about how hard this
Yeah.
is and how hard it is for me to tell you this, but I honor you in doing that first. I think that is absolutely
Mhm.
beautiful. And
Yes.
just to echo what you said, the walking on eggshells is, yeah, we dread that as much as anything.
Yes.
We it's
That's
I
hard.
it is, because there
It's
is
almost
no
like you
perfect
feel,
answer.
yeah, and it's almost like you feel left out of
Mhm.
it. Like, if you, like, just for instance, when I've been in a situation like that, and every girl in the room knew so and so was pregnant, but nobody told me because they knew, it might upset me. But I think it almost hurt worse that all five girls in there knew and were talking about it and were talking about me handling it,
Mm,
and this has been years, but that that hurt me more.
yeah.
Just because I felt like somebody could have just come and talked to me and
Hmm.
told me. And is it easy? No. Does it make it better? No. And that goes back to, I'm so excited for you and I'm very happy for you. But at that point in time in my life, I also probably went home and cried over it.
Yeah.
It is important. On how you handle your friends going through this, because it is such a cluster of
Yeah.
emotions and we don't know how to handle them. We don't.
Yes. And I think that the honest responses or scenarios are what are the heart of healing.
Mhm.
I've really struggled with this too because
Mhm.
I would be in text threads where the conversation, the group was started to talk about health and fitness, and the conversations would end up being about all about children and babies and stuff. and
Yeah.
and then I went through that same cycle of like, i'm I need to mute this conversation. I'm no longer even relevant to it. And but then again, I don't want them to feel like that they can't talk about this stuff in front of me. And so I had to really dive into what what can I do?
Yeah.
Where am I in all of this?
Mhm.
And just to, because I'm interjecting myself into it, I have not struggled with infertility. I've not yet even tried, but just for listeners' sake, I'll be 40 in October, and just still waiting on marriage and family, and waiting to see what God's will is there. But there were some really hard seasons where I'm thinking, is it not going to happen? We only have a chance for so long to be a mother. So anyway, really diving into that. And one thing that's really important for me is to feel understood.
Yes.
And I was holding these people hostage in my mind because they didn't understand.
Mhm.
How dare my friend that has three children that she lives for, bring up adoption as if I didn't know
Right.
that that was an option. You and I have talked about this. We actually
Yeah.
both would really love to do that, but that doesn't mean that the pain that we feel from lack of having a
Mhm.
biological child
Mhm.
doesn't exist. It doesn't make it go away.
Mm-mm.
And so when I was just mad because nobody could understand.
Yeah.
And then I had to, and I didn't want them to understand, back to this
Right.
battle. Like, I wouldn't wish
Yes.
that on anyone.
Mm-mm.
And I'm like, okay, Lord, show me where I am in this. And it's like, you know what? They just can't. So you have to be okay with the fact that they can't understand.
Mhm.
And you have to just manage your reactions from there.
Yep.
And um and that was something that was probably a little bit easier for me to walk through because again, I'm not full of all of these extra hormones. I'm not taking a negative pregnancy test every month. And so I don't think that it's even comparable when you're at your lowest of lows. But to give somebody just perspective on the mental things that we have to walk through, that you had to walk through, um, what were some of the realizations that you had that allowed you to slowly but surely start like walking your way out of the well, out of the darkness?
So I don't feel like I slowly came out of it. I feel like one day I was angry and one day I wasn't.
Mm,
Honestly, I
that's
know that doesn't is probably not normal, but I was angry for a long time, and I do feel like my mind did kind of take a little bit of a turn. Um, and when I said, I wanted to go back to this because I know there are women that are going to hear this and think, oh, just a couple of months she was depressed. No, there was only a couple of months where I just like was bedbound pretty much. But that only lasted a couple of months, but this has lasted years and years of the depression. And I might have gotten up and started going to work, but on the weekends, I still stayed in the bed and I did not interact with people. I lost a lot of friends. I didn't do a lot of things with people for a long time.
How many
Um,
years have you been walking through this?
eight,
8. That's right.
eight,
Okay.
and almost to the day. um, yes, this is many years. This was not. I did want to touch on that just because I didn't want anyone thinking, oh, it was just a few months. She had it easy. Um, it lasted a lot longer, just in different um,
Stages.
stages.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's important.
Um,
I'm glad you clarified that. Yeah.
because I did get up and like I said, start going to work, but I still called in a lot of times. Or like I said, just the weekends, like I didn't do anything overall. I just left it with God. I mean, bottom line, when I said, Lord, I'm just leaving it here at your feet. And this was only just about a year ago, about the time I met you, Allison, and we started talking. It was just right before then that I really just said, this is not my will, but your will. And whatever happens, my purpose here is to be a disciple of the Lord, which, and I just kind of picked myself up.
Do you do you know what got you there? Because what I know is before, you know, maybe you had said that, Lord, I'm giving this to you, but yet you still struggled. Do you have any, and sometimes it's just simply like the Lord just knows when we're finally ready to give it to him.
I honestly think that was it because I think I was just overwhelmed to the point of everything looks like it's going okay in my life to other people, like because I had started slowly starting to hang out with some people from my life group at church, and which I think I owe a lot to that. Just getting more involved in my life group at church because little by little I would go and do something, with somebody, or just going to church, being active in my life group and going. And so then we might do something on a Tuesday night or, just little by little. I was ready to get out and start doing things again.
Yeah,
So
let's talk about that because I actually
okay.
have that
Yeah.
written down.
Yeah.
And I was listening to a podcast the other day with Sean Stevenson and one of his guests, and they were talking about the importance of community
Mhm.
on our health in general. So there are these things called blue zones, and these blue zones are where people live upwards of 100 to 120 years old. And they forever have been studying their diets and their movement patterns because they
Mhm.
wanted, naturally, that's what we would think would attribute to their longevity. And they have found that it was actually because they were so close in community.
Mhm.
And when I think about your story and when I think about what got me out of the darkness was when I stopped sitting here thinking about myself all the time,
Mhm.
me all the time. And you decided to do the same thing. And
Yeah.
we got out and started, number one, serving others, and two, getting in that community again.
Mhm.
Um, I, I think that was a game changer in
Mhm.
my story and yours, is just getting back into community. So
Yeah.
yeah, let's dive into that. Where,
Yeah.
between the gym and your church, and
Mhm.
um, talk to me about that.
Yeah. Um, so we at our church we have what we call our life groups, which was our Sunday school, I guess, growing up. And Um, I love my life group at church because at church, our life groups are called like, married couples, 40 and over, or women 30 to 40, they all have these labels. And our life group, ever since I um, just got to know everybody, I've just called them the life group of misfits because my aunt is in there. She is 75 years old. We have young, unmarried people. We have married couples. We have older married couples. We just have, there's literally everything in there. And I love that just because everybody is in a different stage in their life. We have married couple with young kids. We have just honestly, we're all over the place. And I love that. And just getting together with that group of ladies and just being able to speak openly and freely and not being judged just made me want to talk more.
Mm.
Basically, I just wanted to talk more. um and
And that's so important to have
yeah.
somewhere, somehow. You've got to
Hmm.
find it if you're going through this,
Hmm.
because when we start to isolate, we
Yes.
lose hope and we feel like nobody can understand.
Mm-mm.
Things can get really dangerous.
Yes.
And that I think that, you're what I'm hearing that's so important is you kind of had to walk through that for a little
Yeah.
bit because
Yeah.
it wasn't feasible for you to talk about
Yeah.
it. But when you were able to, the healing that occurred
Yeah.
from just being able to get it from your mind out through your lips, right? I mean,
Yep.
pretty healing, and
Yeah.
that acceptance that you felt.
Yep. Not many, actually, nobody really knows this, but my husband, but it's important to me to share this. And I know my mom's going to be listening to this. So just FYI, mom, here comes some stuff. Um, but it's very dangerous. I did take some things on multiple occasions to hurt myself. Um, and it was honestly, and I'm saying this not for pity, but because I really like, please speak out if you are struggling like this, because when I say I've been there, I've been down and I've been low. It's been low. And um ended up in the ER. I almost don't even think it was because I wanted to end my life. It was because I wanted the attention. I just wanted something to happen.
It's that place of just wanting to escape hopelessness.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even more than attention seeking, I think you just needed.
Yes.
That's what
Yeah.
I mean, I think a lot of women will resonate with
Yeah.
that. Like, let something be different. I'm hopeless.
Right. Right. If anybody is to that point, please, I don't know, reach out to Allison. You can reach out to me. I'm an open book now. I used to not be that way, but I am. And it is because I know the hurt and I know the pain and I know the darkness. And the hardest battle is with myself. It was with
Mm,
myself, my mind. Every single day, I was isolated. Back to that isolation.
mhm.
And it is so dangerous because in my mind every day I warred with myself. And you would say things like, well, obviously you're not good enough. Look at you now, you're overweight, and you have um, lost your job. You have, failed your husband. When in all honesty, of course, he didn't think that. But you failed your husband. You see your mom and dad having grandchildren, and you're like, you know, you're not doing that for them. Um, it's a lot. It's a lot. And that's a hard pill to swallow when you see your parents getting older as well, and you're like, well, gosh, I want my kids to know them.
Mm,
So, and know them, not
mhm.
just, know them when they're older and might have dementia and, but like really know them. And I have wonderful parents that I just, that is still, that's my biggest fear is that they, you know, won't get to see them and be active with them. So,
it ends up putting a pressure on you because we I've noticed that in our lives as women, especially because we have these hormonal landscapes that change
mhm,
about every decade, right? So it always feels like we're on this timeline.
yeah.
And when we can't slow the timeline down and can't expedite the process of getting the favorable outcome, and everything is spinning, and you get to a place of all hopelessness. And I really want to um, just make sure that listeners hear this. Most people who attempt suicide, or we can talk to them. We can't talk to those who went through it, but most people that attempt it and were not successful say later when they are better, if they are better, that they actually didn't want to not exist anymore.
Mhm.
They just needed and they needed out of their current situation. So we can't reiterate that enough. Just
Right.
hang in there and reach out. I'm really glad you touched on that about your parents. I remember talking to a friend who lost her dad before she had her baby, and she was going through this conversation in her mind of, we were waiting until we were both done with school and so far into our career, and
Mhm.
now look, and so
Yep.
there's so many things that we can't really plan for to that degree, but that's a very
Yeah.
real concern for a lot of people. And, when you have precious parents that you have such a close relationship with, and
Mhm.
you can't give that to them, it just kind of stacks on and adds
Yeah.
to the frustration and the pain. So when we talk about some of the things that helped you move forward, so getting connected with this group of women that you could just lay it
Mhm.
all out there with, and then you also started making some significant changes as far as nutrition, and it wasn't even for you at that point about, I want to lose the weight, as much as it was like, I just need to be healthy again, because you
Mhm.
understood that connection between the mental, emotional, and the physical. So
Mhm.
you started working on your nutrition, and then got just super excited about finding a group, a community within a gym. So
Mhm.
tell me a little bit about that, how that
Okay.
transpired, and how that really started to help you
Yeah.
lift as well.
Yeah. So Bradley asked me about, I guess, about this time last year. I was thinking about it this morning because I've known you like a year now. I can't believe that. It's been about a year since I got hooked up with you, but he asked me a little over a year ago. He knew I was struggling, but kind of teetering, like I was getting better, but I still had a lot of work mentally to do. And bless men's hearts, they just don't always know how to help with
They
those
want to
things.
help.
They want to
And
help.
that's what's so
Um,
hard, because they just don't know
right,
how sometimes.
right.
And
And
so
he didn't, and I don't take any offense. Like I feel like some people would be like, he asked you this and you didn't take offense, but he just said he came to me one day and he said, would you be interested in either coming to CrossFit with me or getting back together with your trainer? I had a trainer a few years before COVID started. He was like, if you want to talk to her. So I'm not just saying this because I'm on here with you, but you truly changed my mindset on eating and lifestyle, because I did not know how to eat. I did not understand the importance of fueling my body. Um, there is just there's so much stuff out there now as far as fad diets and don't eat this, don't eat that. Um, but just what to eat and that it can still be good and fun and full of color and flavor, but you don't need all that processed stuff. So I that I owe you my eating
Well,
journey.
I appreciate that. And honestly, have it's been so long since, we worked together.
Yeah.
But I cannot take credit for the process, the progress that you have made, because I was just like a very small part, but I am grateful to hear that, because it's not that I don't want people to enjoy their food. And it's not that we are just out there demonizing processed foods
Mhm.
because it won't make you a swimsuit model. It's because it damages our ovarian
Mhm.
function. It damages our cellular function, our mitochondria. And this is not to say that you have to be perfect all the time, but when you
Right.
adopt the understanding and the commitment
Mhm.
to making the change overall,
Yeah.
and then you become more aware of how you feel. That's huge. And people that know me, I eat probably 90% whole foods diet. I'm not
Mhm.
the fittest or the thinnest girl at our gym, but I mentally and
Mhm.
hormonally am the healthiest I've ever
Yeah.
been. And that's a place that I
Yeah.
pray that I am able to offer women to get to.
Yeah.
But what I loved about you is our time had ended when
Mhm.
we really started getting in the gym and
Mhm.
working hard. And you had enough knowledge. You had invested enough and committed yourself enough to learning while we were together that you were able to adjust your nutrition on your own
Yeah.
to format what it needed to look like with those workouts. And occasionally we would text and just bounce some ideas
Yeah.
off of one another, but it was because you were so committed to continuing to progress, that you didn't just go back to your old habits, but you
Mm.
learned how to manage your nutrition and your lifestyle in a way that, yeah, I mean, once you get to a certain point and you are mentally, emotionally, and physically and hormonally and metabolically healthier, that's a lot. And it all
Yeah.
together. But once you are healthier, then of course, like, you get to enjoy something like that every now and then, and it
Mhm.
doesn't beat you down. And your body is at a place now where you understand what it's telling you. So it may not make you feel really good when you do have those
Right.
wild teeth. It's letting you know, like, hey, like, this is just a once in a while thing. But that's so beautiful too, because
Yeah.
our bodies are all the time sending us these signals. We just lose touch with it and we
Right.
understand what it's saying. And so when you
Yeah.
get to that place,
Yeah.
um,
And I know I've told you this, but I have to tell the world this because it has just been a game changer. Cutting out sugar, like added sugar in my diet, people that don't sleep. I sleep like a baby every night. And when
mhm.
I say I have been on just about every sleeping medicine there is on the market, prescription, over the counter, and would still not sleep through the night. And now I take nothing.
That's
And I'm sure that
amazing.
also has to do with, overall the eating and the exercising because people would say, just exercise and you'll sleep. Just exercise. Well, I was exercising and I still wasn't sleeping. And it makes you almost scared to eat it because they're like, what if you don't sleep? And there are times like if we have a day where we go to a niece or nephew's birthday party and I ate a piece of cake and a cookie and, something else that I don't normally eat, I can tell in my sleep I do not
Mhm.
sleep. So
It's
for
interesting.
my non-sleepers. Mm.
Yeah, it plays such a huge role. I loved seeing how you went from doing better to just coming alive,
Mhm,
because you
mhm.
started recognizing what your body can do and focusing on what your body can
Yeah,
do rather than focusing on what it wasn't doing. So tell
yep.
me about that.
So I want everyone to find where they wanna be, and, I have absolutely fallen in love with fitness. It is, like you said, it is not just the fact that I'm going in there and I'm exercising every day. I shock myself.
Yep. I have realized that when I am not in community, things go dark very quickly, and I give the
Mhm,
enemy too much
mhm.
room to play around. And, I'm looking at my age and my hormones and my body's response. And I'm realizing that I'm going to have to cut back on CrossFit
Mm-hmm.
and move more towards strength training
Mm-hmm.
primarily. And so I was talking to another girl from our gym, and we're like, but we can't let go of this community. I mean, honestly, the support and encouragement and love that I've gotten from this community, there's none like it. And so we've just decided, well, we're going to go in there and do our thing while we're, the
Yeah.
other people, while they're having their class, because
Mm-hmm.
we're not letting go of it. And I
Mm-mm.
think I'll be able to find some kind of middle ground. But yeah, it's crucial to me. It's really, it I live alone, and I work from home. I'm alone 90% of the time. And if I don't have that in my day,
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
things aren't good. So I think, I think that's true for people who are married, or even, trying to have kids, or if you have kids, it's still so important to have that social community. And that
Yes.
social community does not have to exist at a bar. Um,
Mm-mm.
what we are a culmination of the top 5 people that we hang out with. And when you're hanging out at a gym or doing something physically active, you're inevitably going to be better because your brains are sharper. You're talking about, okay, well, how can we take this next level? What are we going to do with our
Yeah.
nutrition? Now,
Yeah.
your class, and then some girls in my class, Anna and I work
Mm-hmm.
out at different times, but we didn't even do this at the same time on purpose, but we started book clubs. So now
Yeah.
we're all reading together. I saw that y'all are doing that this morning. Me and some of the other girls from the lunch class are doing that now. And so like we're constantly finding other ways outside of CrossFit to get better
Yeah.
together. And I
Yeah.
love that.
Yep.
And so,
And this also, it kind of goes back to where I was and then where I'm now. My work ethic has changed.
mm,
My want, like, just going and doing, like, I just can't ever remember ever hustling in a job and enjoying the hustle. I used to not enjoy the hustle. I enjoy the hustle now. I know that sounds weird, but that's just one of those things that are like the eating and the working out. It has truly changed me from the inside out. I
mhm.
mean, I love it. It has changed me.
Yeah, it lights up different parts of your brain. So
Yes,
when you're able
yes.
to get out of survival mode, because when you're in
Yeah,
survival mode, your body starts shutting down systems, or it only gives you just limited access to certain systems, right? And so you're not going to have that extra um go getter. You're not going to want to go extra for anything because your body thinks something really
yeah,
bad's happening. We need to survive this. Your body's always fighting to survive. And so as you start to make these changes, and you start feeding it properly and giving it real nourishment, and then you start moving it properly, which, strengthens neural pathways and like does all of these amazing things. Yeah, then your body's like, oh, okay, we're in rest and
right.
digest now. Like we have the extra, we're not just trying to survive. And so it allows you to go and pursue.
Yeah,
And through this, so I think I want to kind of wrap it up here. So I want to also make sure that women who are listening understand that Anna may not be okay with the fact that she still doesn't have a child, in the sense that like it doesn't feel good. However,
right.
Anna is okay. Not just okay, Anna is thriving. So it's this different level of acceptance. Like I
Yes,
accept it. I don't necessarily like it, but I accept it. What else in life can I focus on right now, right?
right. It doesn't consume me any
Yes.
longer. And um, it, I can't change the outcome no matter what. This was God's plan. I don't know why. But I can't change that. I can't change God's plan. I can't change that I don't have a baby right now. I can't do that. Um, but what I can change is what I focus on, what I um, live for every day, how I want to go through that journey. I can change that. It's not easy. And not every day is roses. I try to act like it sometimes, but it's not. But I do have control on how I'm going to look at the situation.
So when you hear where she's at now and the control that she's been able to gain, the mindset shifts that she has cultivated, shift um that that is, it's just important for Anna and I both that women who are in the thick of the darkness understand that we don't expect you to just say, okay, I'm over it and move on. And also that when you do get to a brighter place, that it's still not going to be painful, but
Mm,
it like you said, it's not all consuming anymore, and it does get you you can get to a place where you have joy again.
right.
um and so what is one thing that you can do today that can help bring about a little bit of
Mhm.
joy? And often that could just be, you know what, I'm feeling really down. What could I go do for somebody else? So maybe
Yeah.
it's you see an elderly person at the grocery store and you offer to, you know, open their car door for them. Or just one little small thing.
One little thing. Yeah.
And so, I just want to provide hope because there are many stories and situations where the
Mhm.
outcome is a child. There are many stories and situations where the outcome is not a child, but a much healthier adult.
Right.
And we are all in this crazy life together.
Mhm.
And I think that the more that we can share our pain without expecting people, without having expectations of how people will manage that, the healthier we can become. It's like anything in this life. The open
Yeah.
dialogue just allows us opportunities to get better on both sides. So those who support and love and want to be there for people who are struggling with this and those who are going through this, we have opportunities to get better. And just acknowledging that it's freaking hard, I think
Mhm.
is really ultimately step one. Like it's just
Yes.
hard and nuanced, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, so give yourself some grace and understand that you're not alone. And like Anna said,
Mhm.
however you need to reach out, shoot
Yeah.
me a DM. We're going to include my contact information in the show notes. And, if you live in Maine or California, but you just need to hop on a call and just talk to somebody who knows a little bit about this, I'm happy to do that. I can connect you with Anna. We can find resources
Yes.
in your area. I'm, well connected with people in this field all over the country who have a desire to help heal, not just
Mhm.
mask symptoms. So
Yes.
there is hope, there is help, and we are just honored for the chance to share some experiences that we've been through. So Anna, thank you so
Yeah.
much. Thank you for
Thank
the heart.
you.
Thank you for the tears. Thank you for your strength. I get a lot of strength from you quite often, and I know a lot of
Mm.
people do. And so, keep sharing your story as you see fit. And we just love you. And that is
Mm.
going to be it for today. Y'all make
Thank you.
sure, yeah, absolutely. Y'all make sure that you join in for the next episode. And if you appreciate it or liked this episode, we would love to have you subscribe, rate, and review. All right. Until next time, ladies, be well.